Welcome back. Got another diag here. Today we got a 2019 Jeep Grand Cherokee. Customer states there's a vacuum pump fault code. So we're going to jump right over into YTech here and see what we got going on. So you can see we got on the topology PCM and ABS are yellow, indicating fault codes. And we have a couple codes in here for the electric vacuum pump circuit. And then we have a vacuum pump performance code. The electric vacuum pump circuit code is active, so that's the one we're going to be focusing on. So pulling up service info for this code, you pretty much see a couple things. A set condition, which I like to look at to see why is this fault code setting. And then also a good note, we didn't see a check engine light in the beginning, and that's going to be why, because it says this is a non-mill fault, so it's not going to set the check engine light. So with that, you could look at some of these steps on service information to do some diagnostics, but I'm just going to jump right into pulling up a wiring diagram and kind of making my own test for how I'm going to figure this one out. All right, so jumping over into a wiring diagram right here, you could see pretty small, not a ton to it. Right away, we got the vacuum pump over here. We have a relay for that vacuum pump in the power distribution center. Powertrain control module here, which is going to play a role. And ABS module was part of this diagram because that's what this circuit is for. But we're mainly just going to be focusing on this. So first thing here is we have this vacuum pump relay. We have terminal 30 here at the top, which is going to be always power from the battery. And then we have terminal 87, which when this relay is activated, it's going to send power to the vacuum pump, and then we have the ground off the vacuum pump. So one of the first things that I like to do is just jump out the relay, terminal 30 to terminal 87. You could do it with a set of like jumper leads, or you could get a relay jumper, however you want to jump it. Pretty much I want to see then, does the vacuum pump work, and kind of go from there. You know, if the vacuum pump turns on, this is kind of going to tell me a lot with a very quick test. It's going to tell me that the power coming from the battery into terminal 30 is good. It's going to tell me this fuse 930 amp is also good. The wiring to the vacuum pump is good, and that I have no issues with the ground or this connector in between. So right away, if you get operation of that vacuum pump when jumping the relay, half the circuit is already good. Now, based on the code we have, I'm going to be looking at the control side of this, not the output, but I always like to just verify this as well too. If I didn't verify this and I found an issue here and fix this, then if I had an issue over here, I'd have to check it later on. So I like to just kind of square it away from the beginning, just because it's not very hard to do, especially with like an external removable relay. If these are integrated relays, they'd be a little bit harder. But looking at the control side of the relay now, we're going to have two terminals here. Little hard to see, but it's 85 at the top, 86 at the bottom. Pretty much 85 at the top is going to be ground control from the powertrain control module, and then 86 is going to be power from the run start relay. So as long as this relay is activated, you're going to have power here. So this relay should normally have two powers, 86 and 30, and then once 85 is grounded through the PCM, it'll pull the switch and then power up the vacuum pump. So that's pretty much what my attack plan is going to be on this one. We're going to start on this side, see what we got. Then I'm going to jump over to this control side and see what we have going on there. So pretty much for a lot of the diagnostics that I do, I usually really just look up like a description and operation. I look up what's setting the fault, like why is the fault code setting, and then I'll usually just pull a wiring diagram, kind of make my own diagnostic plan off of what I'm going to do based off the wiring diagram. Sometimes I'll like look through some of the service information to see what it says and different steps if I'm having like a hard time creating my own like diagnostic plan. But for the majority of the diagnostics that I do, I generate my own plan on testing just based off of wiring diagram, and I find that to be the easiest way to do the majority of the diagnostics that I do. So we got the relay removed, and I'm testing just those two terminals, 86 and 30, to just ensure I have good power, sufficient enough for the relay. You can see we're lighting the bulb, we have good voltage there, so not seeing any issues with either one of those power sources to the relay. Next up, I'm going to jump the relay right here. I have a little jumper I put together, and I got my meter back probed into the fuse, and you can see we're lighting the bulb. You could hear the pump coming on. We have good voltage. So this is showing me that that side of the circuit is good. I don't have any issues. The pump operation is confirmed. So we're going to move over to the control side of this relay and see what we got going on over there. So since terminal 86 was good with power, we're just going to temporarily ground 85, and you could hear the relay turning on and the vacuum pump. So everything's working when it gets a ground. So now we have to see why it doesn't have a ground from the PCM. When working on these Chrysler PCM connectors like this with the green and blue tabs, I like to remove them. It makes it easier to plug this connector in and be able to back probe it. So these easily just slide right out. Make a note of which side is which, just so it's it's easier when you put it back together. But pretty much I'll just take these out and then I could just plug the connector in, and now I could back probe it easily for testing. Now, a quick little test I'm going to do is just run a quick jumper from the PCM over to the control side of that relay. And you can see when I do that, you could audibly hear the vacuum pump turning on. So at this point, the jumper wire has fixed operation to this, and it's controlling normally through YTech at the moment. And you can see when I remove this jumper and I go and try and reactivate it again, the vacuum pump is no longer coming on. Can't hear any audible noise from it. So the fault returns without the jumper. So this is showing me that we have a wiring issue between the PCM and that relay. So at this point, I'm going through the wiring to see where I have an issue between the powertrain control module and then this vacuum pump relay. Because when I overlay a jumper wire, the code goes to stored, operations returned, and everything's working normal. As soon as I remove my jumper, the issue comes back. So I definitely have an issue at this point between these two. Some wiring issue in here. So going through the connectors, I went to this connector first, the XY4000A, and at that connector I found some damage, which I'll show you right here. So upon getting to that connector, you could see we have a lot of corrosion in here. Connector's not looking so great. These terminals are completely corroded looking. But if you look here, this green and yellow wire is 3 terminals over from the end. And then if you look here, we're missing a terminal where that should be. And that's because it's broken off in the other side of the terminal here, the wire that's depinned. And you could see the level of corrosion we have here. It's just a ton of corrosion. It's like dirt, mud, and rust all packed into this. So that's what this one ended up being. We have a connector issue that we'll have to repair and go from there on this one. All right, so I hope you guys like this one. Let me know what you think down in the comments below, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.